At 3 minutes past midnight, California's skies split open with a force that felt biblical. A wall of Pacific moisture, an atmospheric river roaring straight out of the ocean, slammed into the state with no hesitation and no mercy. Within minutes, streets disappeared beneath racing torrents of brown water. Hillsides that looked calm only hours earlier began shuddering, cracking, and sliding down like liquid earth. And within those terrifying first moments, it became clear. This storm was not going to be just another winter headache. It was something far more violent, far more destructive, and far more relentless. People in Los Angeles, Ventura, and Santa Barbara counties woke to the sound of emergency alerts screaming through their phones. Flash flood warning. Evacuate if you are downslope of a burn scar. Seek higher ground immediately. For thousands, that wasn't a suggestion, it was survival. Because the moment the rain hit those bare, fire-stripped hills, the ground didn't absorb anything. It liquefied, entire slopes let go, sending mud, rocks, and burned debris hurtling into neighborhoods with the force of a freight train. One moment, a hillside looked solid. The next, it became a wave of earth roaring downhill, smashing through fences, burying cars and swallowing homes down to their foundations. Residents said they heard a low rumble, like distant thunder, followed by a crack, and then nothing but chaos. Mud blasted through living rooms, trees twisted like broken pencils, walls buckled as if they were made of paper. And in the darkness, people ran for their lives through knee-deep sludge. Coastal towns didn't fare any better. The storm surge and pounding rains pushed Pacific water inland, flooding streets that hadn't seen standing water in years. Cars floated and collided like driftwood. Power transformers blew, lighting up the sky with flashes of blue lightning. Entire blocks fell dark as grid after grid collapsed under the weight of the deluge. Highways, California's arteries, were crippled. The 101 turned into a river. The 5 became an unrecognizable sheet of water and stranded vehicles. The 405, usually jammed with headlights, was nothing but abandoned cars and emergency responders navigating by spotlight. Mud flows rushed across lanes with no warning. Even the state's most hardened drivers pulled over, shaken, headlights reflecting off walls of falling water. In the mountains above Los Angeles, the danger became even more immediate. Fire scars from the last few years, bare, unstable, vulnerable, transformed into mudflow factories. Without vegetation to hold anything in place, entire slopes, liquefied debris fields travelled astonishing distances, carrying boulders the size of refrigerators and wooden beams from burned houses. Some residents barely escaped before waves of mud engulfed their roads. Others watched from second-story windows as the ground floor vanished, swallowed by a slurry of earth and water. Emergency shelters across the region quickly filled. Families came in soaked, covered in mud, clutching pets, children wrapped in blankets. Some described crawling through their yards as flash floods chased them up the hill. Others lost everything, their homes, their cars, every possession they owned, in the span of a few violent minutes. Across Southern California, first responders waded through rapids where sidewalks once were firefighters formed human chains to pull people from vehicles sinking into intersections. Helicopter crews attempted air rescues but were repeatedly forced back by violent winds and zero visibility. When they could fly, they hovered over neighborhoods that looked more like disaster zones, trees down, power lines whipping in the wind, homes partially buried beneath debris. In many places, the danger wasn't just rain, it was earth itself. Hillsides didn't slide once. They slid again and again, each new collapse triggered by more rain falling onto soil that had already reached its breaking point. People who survived the first slide weren't safe. Some had to evacuate twice in the same night as new waves of debris barreled toward homes that had somehow survived round one. The rivers of California turned ferocious. Normally, calm streams morphed into violent rapids, carrying uprooted trees, broken lumber, car parts, and entire chunks of hillside flood gauges rose faster than emergency crews could track. Reservoir spillways rumbled as water levels surged, testing infrastructure that was never designed for storms of this magnitude. The fear wasn't just of flooding, but of breaches, failures, and catastrophic downstream surges. In many neighborhoods, the water level reached chest height. People climbed onto countertops, into attics, onto roofs as they waited for rescue. Some used flashlights to signal rescue boats. Others stayed on balconies as rain hammered down, watching their cars float away. For some, the water receded within hours. For others, it remained, turning neighborhoods into swamps of dark, contaminated floodwater full of debris, oil, and sewage. The economic toll is already staggering. Farms in the Central Valley lost equipment, livestock, and entire seasonal harvests to the flooding vineyards in coastal counties were swamped. Businesses closed, roads will take months to repair. And for homeowners who live in the canyons and foothills, people already battling insurance denials because they live near fire zones, many may now discover that mudslide damage is barely covered, if at all. But the emotional toll, that's far heavier. Parents carrying children through floodwaters, elderly residents lifted into boats by strangers, pets separated from owners, families returning home to see nothing but foundations where houses once stood. And the most chilling part, the storm hadn't even peaked. Meteorologists warned that more bursts of intense rainfall were expected. The atmospheric river feeding the storm system showed no signs of weakening. The next wave could be stronger. The next slide could be larger. The next flood could be deeper. As night fell again over California, streets glistened like black water channels. Hillsides dripped and moaned under their own weight. Rescuers kept digging, searching, listening, hoping to find anyone still calling for help. Families huddled in shelters, listening to the roof shake beneath the relentless downpour. And throughout the state, millions watched the radar, watching the neon bands of rain circle back again. Each pass another threat. California has always been a land of extremes. Wildfires, earthquakes, droughts. But this storm is different. It is faster, more violent, less predictable. Weather systems that once came every decade now strike every year. The climate is shifting, the patterns are changing, and the storms that follow are becoming monsters. Tonight, California stands on soaked, trembling ground. Homes are gone, roads erased, hillsides unstable, and rivers overflowing with a fury the state hasn't seen in years. More rain is coming. More slides are possible. And more danger lies ahead as the atmosphere continues to unload its full weight onto a state already pushed to the edge. For millions watching, the question is no longer, will California recover? It's, how many more nights like this are coming? And are we prepared for the storms that are still on their way? Because when the sky breaks open and the earth beneath you starts to move, you learn fast that nature doesn't wait. And in California tonight, the storm is far from finished.